What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. We are talking all things Chelsea in the build-up to what is probably Chelsea's toughest Conference League game so far against Heidenheim, a team from Germany that have got quite the story, to be honest with you. They've had one of the ultimate sort of come-ups from lower level football, and now they find themselves battling against Europe's elite. But this isn't as plain sailing as some of our other Conference League games. And I want to just get that out there very early doors. I'm not saying I'm worried about this game. I'm not saying that I think Chelsea have a real issue here with winning this game, but I do actually think Heidenheim probably pose more of a test than some of the other teams we've played or we will face. Because as much as they might be 15th in the German league, they actually have put in some okay performances this season, and then ultimately they've just not quite had the quality. I mean, Leverkusen at the weekend, they were doing okay, and then obviously Leverkusen hit them with the full force and ended up winning that game 4-5-2, I think, in the end. But Heidenheim haven't lost yet in the Conference League, and I think I know a couple of other teams we've played haven't lost, but ultimately we then beat them, and then they'd lost. But I looked at the table and they're sixth in the Conference League. And I just feel like they're a little bit more of a test. They're going to have a little bit more of a bout. They're playing in a better league. They're playing in the Bundesliga. And I just think Chelsea really need to be careful because actually, if you think about it, a couple of these guys haven't played football since our last Conference League game. Some of the players that are going to play tonight, they're going to be very rusty. We've had an international break in the middle of all of this. And I just hope that everyone sort of is fit and raring to go and we navigate this one with ease like we've done in every other game. But I just think this is going to be one of the harder ones. But I don't think that means Chelsea should lose. I still think Chelsea have every chance to go to Germany and put 3 or 4 goals past Heidenheim. I just think this one could be more of a test, to be honest with you. But what I want to start with, to be absolutely honest with you, is the sort of team we are going to have tomorrow night. I think Nkunku is nailed on. I think do you know what? Mudryk has been very, very good in the Conference League this season. I think we've got to be honest here. Hopefully that's not him finding his level, but I think he's been really good. I think a lot of us would agree that Mudryk has been playing very, very decent. And I would like to see Mudryk probably play a real sort of important role, I think, going forwards throughout this whole competition. So I expect him to be pretty much nailed on throughout this. And I expect this to be a competition that allows him to grow a little bit, to be honest with you. So Mudryk, for me, is a player I expect to be starting. I want to see more from a couple of players, though, that are in this squad, the so-called B team that have been playing in these games. And I think that is like players like Sancho, players like Dewsbury-Hall. Midfield-wise, probably it's going to be Vega, Dewsbury-Hall potentially in midfield. Those sort of players just to step up and really show that they're at a level to compete with the so-called first 11. Because right now, I almost don't see the point in having some of these players in the squad, because I feel like sometimes we're just sort of killing momentum a little bit with players that are swapping between the two teams. If a player plays midweek and has a really good game, sometimes it's better to keep the momentum going. But I feel like Maresca feels like he has to rotate a little bit. So there's a few players that I'd happily see in this Conference League team just to keep confidence high. But I understand we don't want injuries and things like that. Dan Knight says, would you go strong team or B team tomorrow? I'd just love to mix it up a little bit. I think if players have been good enough for this team and have been good enough from the B team to play in the first team, give them a chance. And I think players that have played in the first team maybe need to keep their momentum going, or they need to show a little bit more, then play them in this. I don't think it has to be as rigid as what it's been. And I think that's just what I'd like to see, a bit more of a change. So, yeah, why not play a bit of a stronger team? Why, if a player isn't good enough, why do we have to just play them in the Conference League games? Because we're trying to rotate 22 players, or we're trying to make sure we hold up the value of someone. But yeah, look, Dan, you're making a really good point there as well, is that tomorrow obviously is not a must-win game. And I think that's the most important thing to remember here, is that this Heidenheim game isn't must-win. So we don't need to go all out, really. But at the same time, I'd love to win this game and have this Conference League wrapped up. And then obviously going forwards, we can rotate and do what we sort of want in this competition, because we would be qualified. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I think it'll be pretty much plain sailing. Touch wood. That's how I hope it's going to go tomorrow. To be honest with you, I think Chelsea have the quality to beat every single team in the Conference League by quite some way. But yeah, I would think if Chelsea win tomorrow against Heidenheim, the Conference League sort of league part of the competition is pretty much wrapped up. I don't see. I mean, what are Chelsea on? Chelsea have played 3, won 3, goals for 16, double the amount of the team second place, Legia Warsaw. I absolutely would say it's probably done. 12 points. You'd think that would be enough. I mean, it's out of 8 games, isn't it? So potentially one more. But it's going to be an interesting one for Chelsea to sort of just judge where we need to be in terms of points needed in the Conference League, because ultimately we don't really know what the other teams are about. And the thing is that there are teams like Warsaw, Rapid Vienna, Vitória from Portugal, Heidenheim, Fiorentina that are probably capable of picking up points against others. But yeah, Chelsea are massively now favourites to win the Conference League, 100%. What are we thinking with the lineup then? I probably would say Nkunku is probably going to start up front. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about this with Nkunku, because some people are saying, what is the point in playing Nkunku out of position when obviously he isn't a striker? I think that's clear for everyone to see now. His best position is not up front. Are we better off giving a player like Mark Guy a bit of game time, a chance to play up front, and potentially get some really key minutes under his belt in a position that he's going to play for the majority of his career? I think Nkunku, is it better off playing him in a different position? Is it better off playing Nkunku in the 10? There are 6. Is there only 6 in the Conference League? There you go. Yeah, then Chelsea are definitely through. I thought it was 8, like the Champions League, but it's 6 now, is it? I can't remember all of our fixtures. Who have we got left then? We got Heidenheim and... No, we got a few, haven't we? We've got Astana, Heidenheim, Astana, Shamrock. Is that all we've got then? Yeah, matchday 6 of 6. So it's only the Champions League that does that many. Okay, right. Chelsea win tomorrow. Chelsea, that is through. We're done. We are into the knockouts of that competition for absolute certain. We'll have that wrapped up, I would say. Absolutely no way we don't get into the top 8, as it's a 6 fixture competition. Look, I think Nkunku has to probably play up front tomorrow, but I think there is definitely a shout for the Mark Guy argument, to be honest with you, because I'm getting a little bit frustrated with Nkunku being played out of position. I think there's either a misjudgment of what he is as a player there, or a failure to recognise what Nkunku brings to a team. And ultimately, playing him as a number 9 just doesn't sit comfortably with me. It doesn't sit right. I don't think we're getting the best out of him there. Look, he's scoring goals, but I think it's obvious to see when he's on the pitch and he's playing and he's performing, it just doesn't look like the type of Nkunku that we've seen before, obviously at Red Bull and obviously now at Chelsea in spells when he's been allowed to play in a position that he looks a little bit more comfortable. I don't think we're seeing that, unfortunately, when he's playing at the 9, but more than likely he will play in the 9 tomorrow. I would say off the basis of the weekend's fixture, I expect Mudryk to be starting. I actually think that potentially in the number 10, this is where I think Nkunku could go there and Guy would start, but I'm sort of wondering whether maybe Sancho plays in the 10. We've seen him do that for Dortmund, because I think is Neto due game time? Is Neto fit? I was sort of wondering that. I wondered whether Tyreek George deserves more minutes after his last game. So I'm a little bit not so much confused, but I actually think the front four has a lot of room for movement here, and I'm not entirely certain what will happen. Yeah, but people are saying João Felix, but João Felix just played a lot of minutes in the Prem. So what are we saying? João Felix plays in this one and plays back-to-back games potentially, but this is why I was saying maybe a number 10 could be a slot for Nkunku. It could be that Sancho plays there. We've seen him do that before. It could be that Dewsbury-Hall plays in the 10. I don't think that position is nailed on for tomorrow's fixture, but I do think Sancho will be in this 11. I do think Mudryk will be, and I wouldn't be shocked if Neto was either, to be honest with you, just because he didn't play at the weekend. But at the same point, maybe they save Neto and then he's back ready, obviously, for Villa at the weekend, because I'd rather him be in that 11, to be honest with you, for Villa than a game against Heidenheim. So we're going with Dances Felix as well. So yeah, look, that'll be one that's up for sort of discussion. I think Vega is nailed on, obviously, to be starting. Probably in this 11, Vega is one of the ones that is almost a guarantee, but he's also another player that's very versatile. And when I've looked at the 11, I kind of think Vega will probably start in that so-called like Cucurella roll out onto the left. And if he inverts into the midfield, that wouldn't shock me. I think it all depends on what happens with the 10. It's probably Dewsbury-Hall that plays alongside him, but it could be Cassidy. I mean, Cassidy's had a pretty good string of performances in this competition. He's really not looked out of place, to be honest with you. You wouldn't have thought Cassidy was a player that hasn't played many minutes of football since he returned back from Leicester on loan. I think he's looked okay. And if Cassidy was to start in this game, I wouldn't have an issue with it, to be honest with you. I think that's a player that's trying to move forwards in his career. I don't know whether that's going to be at Chelsea come January or the end of the season, but if he was to play in this game, I think Maresca quite likes him, and I think he feels that he can trust him. So I think actually the Conference League looked very nailed. I think it looked really nailed on at the beginning of the season. As the Conference League's gone on, the teams actually sort of needed some adjustment. I mean, Malo Gusto, does he play? Like, he didn't play any minutes, obviously. I've heard that he's training now. I don't know where he's at. Apparently, he had an illness. So, what are we going to see? Dazassi right back is probably the most likely scenario, because we've seen in this competition, haven't we? Dazassi, Badashile's been nailed on in this competition, and now he's just had 90 minutes in the Premier League. So, actually, to be honest with you, the whole 11 actually is going to be is a bit of a wild card, to be honest with you. I think we're just going to have to see how that looks. Jorgensen will obviously start in goal, but when you're looking at how strict Maresca's rotation has been with this competition, and it's almost been so nailed on that we were able to have 2 11s, I think what we might see now is, to be honest, probably one of the more sort of less nailed on 11s we've seen in this competition, to be honest. And I wonder whether it will start to really show after this game week who Maresca believes who is in his first 11 and who is in, obviously, his rotation 11. Does Lavia start, says Dan? Look, this is another one. Lavia, obviously, we don't know where his fitness is at. He obviously went to Belgium, didn't play, and then Lavia has ultimately come back and trained and played a little bit. But I don't know whether or not that means he'll be ready to play 90 minutes. I don't know. But Sancho, another player that we haven't seen enough of in recent weeks. Obviously, there's been injury, illness, loans. So Lavia's not in to be fair, Lavia's not in the Conference League squad. So we've got hang on, that's very true. Lavia, Fofana, Cole Palmer, I think Chilwell, probably those are not in it. So Reece James, another player who is obviously not available. So it's going to be a really interesting squad. So I'd love to know your thoughts, because I think this is probably one of the just thinking about it, right? This is potentially one of the hardest Chelsea squads, 11, to pick this season potentially, just because we're off the back of an international break. We've had some injuries, we've had some absentees, and I just don't know where Maresca goes with it because it's been so nailed on. But we know the likes of Mudryk, Dewsbury-Hall, and Nkunku, Vega, they're the sort of players, Tosin, Dazassi, they're going to be nailed on to be playing in this game. There's no doubt about it. Jorgensen as well. I think it's just going to be a couple of positions are just sort of variable and up for grabs as well. Look, Heidenheim did lose, to be honest with you. They did, but they started off very well at the weekend against Leverkusen, and Leverkusen obviously took it to another level. I don't think we need to be worried about Heidenheim. I just think they might be one of the tougher tests we get in this competition, to be honest with you. But if Chelsea go to Germany and score 3, 4, 5 goals, I wouldn't be surprised, because I think with our firepower, we are easily as good as Bayer Leverkusen in terms of scoring goals against this team. And that's without our first 11 being selected and players being available. Look, we need to talk about one player here in particular, I think. And it's a player that I think a lot of Chelsea fans are confused about where his future lies, and it's Christopher Nkunku. I don't know where Christopher Nkunku is come January and definitely the end of the season. I'm hearing rumours today that potentially Borussia Dortmund is his next destination. I've heard Manchester City fans calling to sign him. I've heard Manchester United fans calling for him. And I think Kalo absolutely sums it up. He must be livid to see João Felix started, because I was at the Leicester game, and then there was the news sort of breaking that potentially Neto might not be in the team. He's had a knock in the international break. And I was thinking to myself, right, he goes with Nkunku here. He goes with Nkunku because Nkunku's been Chelsea's top scorer in all comps this season. He's been the favourite to be picked in this particular role at times. And then he chooses João Felix. And that baffled me, because I actually thought if he was going to play someone on the left to replace Neto, it would just be Mudryk. No, he kind of switched up the system a little bit and made sure that it was Cucurella that was picking up the wide area. And Felix played through that sort of left-hand side pocket sort of 10 role, slash out wide when he needed to. And I think that's the exact position we've been waiting to see Nkunku in all season. And he picked João Felix. And I think that is the writing on the wall for Nkunku. I think that tells me that Nkunku is absolutely a player that doesn't have a future at Chelsea. And that disappoints me a lot, because I believe he's a very, very good player, and a player that hasn't really done much wrong to not have a future. I just think he was signed under a different regime, and that is negatively affecting him now going forward in terms of game time and the position he plays. I actually think they would rather sell Nkunku right now, because he doesn't currently fit into the wage structure. Look, Matt, I know what you're saying about you don't really care about Nkunku. You feel like he doesn't sprint, he doesn't tackle, unfortunately, with the big injury, but we'll be fine. I actually think Chelsea would be a better team if you could fit Nkunku into this 11. I feel like there's times when we're very reliant on Cole Palmer. If Cole Palmer doesn't perform, there's question marks, right? Jackson seems to be doing enough up front on his own to get this team goals. But there's no issue, I don't think. Well, you see that game at the weekend, right? João Felix has played, and Nkunku way more of a goal threat than João Felix is. There's no doubt about it. João Felix is not renowned for his output. He just isn't. And I think that's where Nkunku has obviously shown in seasons gone by, this guy can put up serious numbers, serious numbers from a position that isn't just off to, that's not a striker, and it's just off to the left inside of 10. Nkunku needs to be playing football, because he's a fully fledged French international when fit and available. And if he's fit and available like he is now, and he's not getting minutes at Chelsea, he will go. He will move on. And I think that decision at the weekend, I think Maresca showed that he'd favour João Felix in that role than Nkunku. And that, for me, suggests that they've got that one wrong. I think the Timo Werner discussion is very, very different. Werner wasn't playing the exact same role as Nkunku. And look, don't get me wrong, players have come from Germany and haven't performed. But I think Nkunku's struck. I think Nkunku's thinking, look, I deserve more than the 10 minutes I'm getting towards the end of the games. I think he is. So I think there's a definite move on the cards, potentially January, if not end of the season. Look, I think actually, the Newcastle game was a big deal, right? Not many players were good in that game against Newcastle. João Felix wasn't great in that game. He really wasn't. And neither was Nkunku, and neither was a couple of other players. And he's kind of stuck with some players, Maresca, there. But it feels like Nkunku is the player that he's kind of gone, no, not for me. I don't think you're a striker. I don't think you're this. And I don't think he's given Nkunku a fair crack of the whip. Moving on to another player, he was fuming after that Newcastle game. A lot of people said, oh, Maresca lost that one on purpose. No, the players let Maresca down in that game. Definitely did. Like, we really did let ourselves down as a team in that Newcastle game in the Carabao Cup, because I think that was a competition that we should have been speaking about winning. You look at the teams that are left in that would have been our best chance for a domestic trophy in years. Now we've got to go and do it in the FA Cup. I actually don't think Felix did enough against Leicester. I don't think Felix had a bad game. I don't think he did enough, though. I think after Felix having a game like that, if Neto isn't fit, I would play Nkunku the next game and go, right, Nkunku, let's see what you're about in this role. And if Nkunku has a better game, I think you know where to go. I think Nkunku needs a start. I've got to be honest with you. The fact that he hasn't had a start in his best position yet, that's not on for me. I think he deserves a start. But another player who I think a lot of us are sort of scratching our heads here and looking at him thinking, what are you? Why did we sign you? What have you added to this Chelsea team? Can you imagine, right? By the way, just before I get up the picture of who I'm going to speak about next, if Nkunku actually doesn't get a start and leaves before he gets a start, I will just feel like that has been a situation that just hasn't been managed well enough. Give him a start and just see what you get. Maybe the Christmas period is where he gets one of those starts in the Prem. We can get onto Cole Palmer in a bit. I don't mind that. We'll throw some questions up for sure. But the next player I want to speak about is a guy that is confusing a lot of Chelsea fans. Literally, what was the point? It's Dewsbury-Hall. I do not understand this signing. What did we do? Did we sign Dewsbury-Hall just to try and keep fans happy because of how the Gallagher situation was going? Because I'm going to be real here. This guy is miles off the level of Conor Gallagher. Miles off the level. Conor replaced Mason Mount in the team, yeah? Conor probably wasn't at Mason Mount's best ever level, but added some stuff that Mason Mount didn't add. This guy, he isn't even close to either of the two. I do not understand what Chelsea are doing recruiting this player. Unless Maresca specifically asked for him, this makes no sense. He come on for 5 minutes at the end against Leicester. And the biggest bugbear for me with this is the players in the academy or young players in this Chelsea squad that are now having their pathway blocked by him. What are we doing here? I'm not saying we should have kept Gallagher, right? Because obviously you all know that I would have kept Conor Gallagher at Chelsea. I think he's Chelsea through and through. He loved the club more than any other player on that pitch. What I will say is, though, that clear profits needed. The way we've spent, we had to find money. He was an easy option. I actually think if you'd said, yeah, we're going to get João Felix, but you go, João Felix, yeah, that'll do. He's all right. We know he can play. And you go, okay, fine. We then don't ever needed to spend 35 million on Dewsbury-Hall because it's just gone down like a lead balloon, to be honest, this transfer. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of a signing. It's a waste of a young player's career. And I know he is young, he's wasting his own career. But not only that, I think he's blocked Carney Chukwuemeka's whole Chelsea career. And I'll tell you right now, if Connor was leaving and that 10 was sort of freeing up to be battled between a few players, because obviously Poch was playing him there or as a dynamic midfielder, I think there's a number of players that could have played in that role. Chukwu potentially could have played in the midfield. He's obviously been loaned out to Southampton, but looked exciting in pre-season. There's no doubt about that. Chukwuemeka, all right, he's had injuries, but another player that I feel like is just being so unfairly treated through no fault of his own. And I just think like we paid so much for Dewsbury-Hall. He's not looked anywhere near the sort of level that we expected him to be at. And I think, at what point do you turn around and go, whose signing was this? Because who believed this was a good deal? Someone, for me, if you spent £35 million on a player like Dewsbury-Hall, you should be evaluated if you're doing your job properly or not. Because I do not understand this. And 35 million, if we hadn't spent that already on Dewsbury-Hall, Osimhen would be playing for this team right now. We would have signed Osimhen because we would have had 35 million extra to negotiate that deal. So it just absolutely baffles me. We spent 35 million on Conor Gallagher, on the Conor Gallagher replacement, and he cannot get it. Like, he can barely get into a Premier League 11. I literally think the game at the weekend against Leicester was purely down. He got minutes because it was his old club. And I think Maresca feels obviously that he was there with Dewsbury-Hall and he understands what Leicester meant to Dewsbury-Hall. I almost think they were sympathy minutes, because on a normal match day, he ain't getting anywhere near Chelsea's Premier League squad. And we've spent 35 million on him. Save that spot for a youngster in the academy, because that is absolutely ludicrous to me that we did that, to be honest with you. It just doesn't make sense. And I don't want to throw the blame around and be like, look, who's doing this? They need to be sacked, blah, 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 blah. But have a serious conversation with the person that authorized this, the person who turned up here and said, sign me Dewsbury-Hall. Because if they're capable of signing Dewsbury-Hall and they believe that Dewsbury-Hall is good enough for this Chelsea team, what other mistakes have they made? Are they gonna make? Because unfortunately, what we've seen right now, he isn't. So what I'm saying about the rest of this Europa Conference League campaign is Dewsbury-Hall absolutely has to, and I mean has to, perform to the best of his abilities every single game for us to even think that this guy is going to be good enough going forward. So that maybe it takes a season, but this guy's played Premier League football before. This guy's played in England. Plenty of players have played in the Championship and come to the Prem and been okay. Dewsbury-Hall's played in the Prem, played in the Championship, played under this manager already, and it looks like he doesn't have any idea of how to play in this system. So I'm not sure what this transfer was about. And I genuinely think not only is it a waste of money, but I think it's a waste of a player like Chukwuemeka or someone like that's career. Because if you give Carney Chukwuemeka games, he will as long as he doesn't get injured, his value will absolutely rise because he's a very good player. I think the same with a couple of other players as well. So, yeah, Dewsbury-Hall not even getting near a Premier League squad, that's not great, is it? To be fair, it's really not a good transfer. I can see loads of you in the chat saying English tax. It was the sporting director's fault, says Dan. Do you see him being here at the start of next season? I really don't know. Like, there's youngsters as well that obviously could have waited and they haven't got a chance. There's maximum potential. Worst transfer for Chelsea is Kieran Dewsbury-Hall. Pointless signing, says Dan. They signed KDH either to think it would help Enzo and he's just not used to him, or as a PR signing to make fans. Yeah, I agree. It's got to be one of the two. It's such a confusing signing. I want to see Dewsbury-Hall perform for Chelsea. I really do. I want to understand why we've signed this player. But right now, I'm not seeing it. And I think this competition is where he needs to be playing out of his skin. And I believe that is the beauty of this competition. It gives you a chance, right? There are players that have played in this. Yeah, we're on YouTube as well, guys, on the TikTok. We are live on BDB Dan's YouTube channel as well. I believe this competition 100% shows a window of opportunity for players that are looking to take their position or their opportunity by the horns and potentially have a chance, right? João Felix started the season out of the Premier League squad. He's now had a start. The same with Neto. The same with players like Vega. A level of trust can now be put in Vega because he's been good in this competition. Defenders as well. Badashile's had some better performances. He's got himself a Premier League start. There are a number of players in this competition that are consistently putting in good performances, and then the manager believes he can trust in them, right? He gave him a chance against Newcastle. They let him down. They're having to rebuild and go again because, look, we saw players against Newcastle really let this manager down, and I think he's probably felt that actually maybe these players in this competition aren't good enough, but I still believe some of them have shown enough quality to deserve a start or deserve a fairer crack of the whip. And I don't think they've had that yet, to be honest with you. I think Nkunku is the one that stands out for me. That it's a player that if we get to January and this guy's not had more than like 3 Prem starts, we're not doing enough here because there are a number of players in Chelsea's squad right now that they're okay, but I feel like there's potential in this squad to get better than okay, right? We've got some very, very good players. I actually feel like the full potential of this squad, even on today's current level, hasn't been unlocked. I know we can say in 3 years' time, this squad will be unbelievable. I even think looking at the players that we have available, the full potential of this squad hasn't been unlocked. So I really think we could do a little bit more. I don't know what you guys think, but I see windows of opportunity for a number of players. Yeah, 3 starts in the Prem since I know he's had injuries, but how many of them have come under Maresca? Has he had one? I'm not sure that he has. I think that might be under Poch. Look, we need to speak about another player who is a player that it's an incredibly tough situation. And we touched on it a little bit on Monday, and it's Reece James. And I'm not sure how Chelsea handle this situation going forwards, because I think if the right amount of money is put on the table, they will sell. I think they'll be reluctant to. I think they understand what Reece James means to Chelsea. And I actually think if Reece James leaves Chelsea, it's a massive tear in the hearts of a lot of Chelsea fans, because I don't understand a lot of the actions that this board have made, and I don't understand a lot of the players that are coming in. And I'm feeling a sort of lack of connection towards a lot of players. And there's only very few players in this Chelsea 11 that I think actually really do get it and understand what it means to play for Chelsea. I think Levi actually did a really good interview the other day. And I look at Levi and I think, yes, he's that type of player. I think there's a couple of other players as well that are in this 11 that have been around Chelsea's youth system. And I think they show that they want to play for Chelsea. But Reece James is by far and above all the player that captivates every single Chelsea fan. And I just think if he leaves, I wonder where those Chelsea fans go. To lose Gallagher and then to lose Reece James, where does that connection go to? Because I'm not, maybe it's Levi, maybe it all goes on Levi, but I'm not seeing enough players really generate that in terms of understanding what it is to be Chelsea. Because when a player comes through the academy, they give a little bit more. I think people knew that Gallagher did that. They just felt that Gallagher probably wasn't good enough. And I think that really did split the fan base and obviously the manager and the sporting directors. Reece James is good enough. And I think that is so frustrating that he can't stay fit. And I bet he is fuming every single day, to be honest with you. So Look, that's a real tough one. And I hope that it doesn't come down to the fact that if a good bid comes in, Reece James goes. If we sell Reece for I'll be honest, if we sell Reece for anything below 40 million, I would have just rather kept him and sort of just seen what happens there. Maybe an agreement could be reached with Reece and you say, look, do you want a loan deal? Just go and try it in another country. And if you stay fit and you play this many games in a season, they buy you for 60 to 80 million. Like, go to AC Milan, where a number of Chelsea players have gone and been able to stay fit after more and more time on the sidelines at Chelsea. That's now a thing of the past. Ruben come out not long ago and said, I should have left Chelsea years before because he just couldn't stay fit here. And I think he's gone to Milan and it's been a different story. The same with Pulisic, the same with Kante at Etihad. A number of players have left Chelsea. Tomori as well, another player that's had a slightly more improved level of fitness moving to a different country. So maybe that's what happens. But I just don't want to see Reece leave. And I don't want to see him leave on a cut price deal. I would rather just stick with it and treat Reece as a luxury player that when available, you utilize him. And if not, you have a team that is perfectly capable of functioning without him, which Gusto obviously allowed us to do a lot last season. I don't think Gusto has been at his level of last season yet, mainly because I think he's being asked to do a slightly different role. But the whole situation right now, with Reece being injured and not knowing what's happening with Gusto, opens a door for a player who just previously has been frozen out. And the news is breaking today that Joshua Achimpong is training with the first team. And this brings a little bit of a smile to my face because Josh has got plaudits. Josh has got admirers in the football world. Josh has got players that are clubs that are 100% keen for his signature. And I hope Chelsea have come to some sort of agreement with him because there's been a number of windows of opportunity for him this season. He could have been playing at right back every game in this competition, to be fair to you, with Gusto and Reece, obviously injuries and playing a lot of football. This competition was perfect for him. I hope that that's all been put to bed now and he's good to go because I think we could see a really good player blossom here. We've seen a number of players get opportunities at fullback at Chelsea in recent seasons. I think last year, I think of Alfie. The season before, I think of Lewis Hall. So this is Josh's opportunity, right? And I think really Chelsea should be working hard on that situation to sort it out because this is a chance for either Josh's value to go up if you want to sell him or a chance for us to go, hang on, Gusto and Josh going forward is our solution to the right back position if Reece can't stay fit. So I don't know if that's truth. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but apparently he's been spotted training with the first team. And I hope that that is sorted. And if you know what, if Josh starts against Heidenheim, fair enough, or gets some minutes, I'd be really happy with that because then that would tell us that he's no longer being phased out and hopefully some sort of agreement has happened with his contract situation, to be honest with you. A couple of guys here, I'll just read out your comments about what you're saying about Reece James. James is the only player who understands winning trophies for Chelsea. Yeah, I'd say probably if you look at the 11 right now, you've got, not the 11, but players in the squad. You've probably got Ben Chilwell, you've probably got Reece James, and you've probably got, I think Levi gets it, I think Levi gets it. I think they're probably the players that really do understand the weight and the pressure and the gravity of what it is to play for Chelsea. I really think they do. Dan says James's hamstring is made out of cheese. Yeah, look, Reece has got issues with his hamstring. And I think the fact that he went for surgery and now it's not work, that's only going to make things more frustrating. And we're not doctors here. We're not privy to everything. But it sounds like there are a number of issues with Reece James's hamstrings. I don't know how you fix it. Sometimes, I've said this on a number of occasions before, but sometimes footballers are way too muscle bound for their own good. And Reece is incredibly muscular, right? And he's very that there's a lot of pressure and a lot of weights on his joints and his ligaments and muscles and all that stuff that sometimes for a footballer is just unneeded. I think of some of the best footballers, and some of them don't have much on them at all. And I understand that in Reece's position, to be strong is really helpful. And he spent so much time injured that probably he spends a lot of time in the gym. And sometimes I just wonder whether or not that's more of a hindrance than a beneficiary to his body. And I understand that hot weather and warmer weather and different methodologies in different countries have proven to help players. I believe there's a future for Reece. I'm starting to think more and more that future isn't at Chelsea, though, in terms of him having a solid career, unfortunately, which is such a shame. But I think Reece has done enough for this club in a way that if he was to leave, we'd all go, look, for his career, it's probably the best thing for him to do. And I think as Chelsea fans, we could get together and understand that, as much as it'd be disappointing. OR says, if you could get more than the 50, take it and run. Look, I think 50 million is probably the sort of number that starts making you go, that is still a lot of money. You know, clear profit, 50 million. You're not ever going to get a player that's at Reece's level, but it buys you a replacement that you can carry on with and build for the future with, right? Because 50 million gets you a solid player, or it fixes a problem somewhere else, gets you a decent level centre-back. Look, his surgery obviously didn't work, says Dan. James and Lavia aren't fit most of the time. Yeah, look, Lavia is another one, I think, that's probably in a similar sort of boat. And maybe it just means Chelsea needs to change their approach to players that are having these sort of issues. How much training do they really need to do? Think about this, right? This is what I keep thinking to myself with Reece. When does he get injured in a game? I very rarely see Reece get injured in the match. It just seems to be in training. So maybe it's something he's doing in training. Maybe it's Cobham's pitches. I just don't know, do you? Lavia is another noodle hamstring. Should have kept Gallagher. I really like Lavia. I'll be honest. I really like Lavia. I think he's a completely different player to Conor Gallagher. I think Lavia is another one, though, that we're just hope we don't end up in the same boat, that we're just praying that he's fit all the time. But I think he's a good player. Luckily, with Lavia obviously not being available, Enzo has started to pick up a bit of momentum. And I know some people in my chat are saying that he hasn't turned a corner yet. I think he's turning it. He's probably just starting to turn that wheel a bit, because I've been really impressed with him recent weeks. I really have. George and Acheampong would have cooked on the right. Yeah, they probably would have. This is what I'm saying. I think this is a great opportunity for players like Acheampong and Tyreek George to get opportunities. And if you're not playing a player because of poor people around him and contract talks, it just baffles me. It really, really does. Nazar said not to look into it. Yeah, I've heard all this 2 squads in training stuff, and maybe that's the case, but I'm not sure. What is James? Look, I don't know. I have a funny feeling that Reece was injured before the international break. And you know what? I read his message that he tweeted out or put on his Instagram story, and I think that's the most frustrated he's ever been with it. That, reading between the lines, that's how it seemed, because I think he's thinking, this is just never going to stop. This is never ending. I think he's probably really struggling. But the thing that I found difficult to come to terms with was, he said, have a good festive period. Like, maybe that means he's going to go away and he's just going to focus on the festive period. He's not going to be on Instagram. But at the same time, I was like, is he implying that he's not going to be back till the new year? Because if that's the case, that's going to be really difficult to accept. Lavia looks to be more of an 8 than a 6. I'm not sure if that's true. I'm not entirely sure if that's true. I think they've both worked in a pivot together as a 6, both of them. I think both have worked as like a double 6, and we've played inverted players to fill in the role of what an 8 or a 10 might do as well. Casado is probably the player for me that I think looks like he'd be a little bit more fluent in terms of playing in the 8 role. But yeah, it'll be something that I'm sure over the course of the season we start to see. And it was exactly the same last season, right? If players can't stay fit, you will start to see the team moving away from them. I think the issue with Reece is, whenever he's fit, you can see that he's a level above the majority of players that he ever plays with, because he is that good. But 9 times out of 10, a team will move away. If a player can't stay fit, they'll move in a different direction. And ultimately, I think we might be at that crossroads with Reece. And if offers start coming in, I mean, the only thing I liken it to is with Reece is you bought a really good piece of like china from a shop, like a plate, right? And it's been brilliant for you once. And it was like the best piece of dining, like the best plate you would get out for like the biggest meals you'd have, right? And whenever you get everyone around for dinner, you get these plates out, and then one day you drop the box and they all smash, and you keep trying to put it back together, but that plate will never be the same. And that's kind of how I feel with Reece. Is that like he, no matter what happens now, he is never ever going to be the same. And I kind of feel like that. And it's like in the and then it's like the people that are in the shop window, you take that plate to like a car boot sale to sell it. People are going to go, oh, I love these plates. Aren't they great? But I wouldn't buy a broken one. And that's kind of how I feel with Reece. Like, who in the shop window is looking at Reece? It's only a real opportunistic person or club or someone who believes they'll take a second chance on Reece. And I think that's probably, like, his injuries have drastically reduced any value that was held in him. And I think sometimes businessmen will just be looking to cash out. I mean, let's be real, right? I think if Reece's contract obviously goes on for quite some time, but say he doesn't leave and say it doesn't get mutually terminated and we just sit through this cycle for another few years, I don't think he'll get another one. I just think he wouldn't. But his contract, obviously, I think it goes on till like, I want to say 2028, actually. If it's not 2026, it's 2028. It's quite a while. So yeah, going to be really, really difficult for Reece moving forwards, I think, to ever be quite the same. But I feel for him. I feel sorry for him. And I don't know what the future looks like for him. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I will always hope that Reece James can get back into this Chelsea team, because we all know how good he can be. And you know what? On his day, he is absolutely electric. We even saw glimpses at the end of last season. Okay, let's read a couple of the comments as well. I'm really hard on Lavia. I think he become our Rodri. Still young, though. I'll tell you what, if Lavia was at City, he'd be playing right now with their problems going on. George is too raw, not good. I don't know if I agree with that. I think Tyreek George had maybe not a bench spot in the Prem, but I thought he had a really good game against Noah the other week. I thought he played really well. I thought he was brave. Look, I don't think Tyreek George is Callum Hudson-Odoi level. Let's do that straight away. Callum Hudson-Odoi coming through the academy and what he did at such a young age was mind-blowing. Callum was the Hazard replacement at like 18. I don't think he's that, by the way, but I think he's a good player. I really do. And he's a player I'd like to see a little bit more of for Chelsea, for sure. He's earning my respect. Gusto should be worried after how he played without maybe. Do you know what I found really good about that performance, Matt, with what you're saying is Fofana was a bit more limited, wasn't he? And he didn't bomb on and forward as much. It kind of just reminded me of like what a traditional back line can be at times. And I just felt to myself, you know what? This is how it should be. We don't always need a player to go and do something really complicated and trying. Sometimes Cole Palmer needs a bit of space. Sometimes he needs a little bit more room. So doesn't want Gusto occupying the same position as him. He doesn't want Enzo Fernandez occupying the same position as him. And sometimes, by Fofana being limited, I actually think it just freed up a bit of space where Cole Palmer, obviously, had he been in better form or had he been allowed to go more out to the position that he wants to be in, might have thrived. But I think Fofana showed that by being limited, actually, it's not always the worst thing. Fofana was just allowed to do his job defensively, and he made it very tough for those Leicester players down that side. And that's what you want your fullback to do, really, especially when you've got the attacking talent that Chelsea have going forward. And you've got Cucurella, who is very versatile on the other side. I think we saw last season, Gusto just being able to be a right back. He's very good. Very, very good. Maybe we should just focus on that. And I've said this before, by the way, Gusto at right back, at bombing on, being traditional right back, allows Cole Palmer to play on the right because he can invert and Gusto will provide the width. I've said that before. We saw it last season, actually, under Poch towards the end of the season. I still think that's a higher level of quality on the right-hand side than having Madueke starting every single game. Because I think Cole Palmer's output will just be better than Madueke's. And I really like Madueke, but I think ultimately he's probably a better sub than he is when he starts. I'm pre-warning everybody. George is being sold. He probably will. He probably will. They're probably doing him up for pure profit like they are with a number of other players. And because they just keep spending. Because of signings like Dewsbury-Hall, you have to sell your best youth academy players like Gusto. Not Gusto, like George. You have to fund those transfers. Next year on the grass, we will see Reece James, says Dan. I hope you're right, mate. Lavia Bozak won't. No, what? No. Lavia is decent. Lavia's all right. Let's give him time. He's very young as well. I think I've seen enough in Lavia to think that if he can stay fit, his career will have an upwards trajectory. It was actually a diamond. Yeah, it was actually. You're right. It was more like one player in the 10 and then two players either side of the guy that was sitting there, because Enzo was allowed to push up high onto that right-hand pocket. Obviously, João Felix was allowed to push up high onto that left-hand pocket, and Cole Palmer was being restricted to being a little bit more central. I still don't think that is where Cole Palmer's at his best, because Enzo Fernandez pushed up a lot, right? And I think that just limits to where Cole Palmer can occupy. So, Matt, good bit of analysis. I completely agree with that. That's exactly what I saw when I was there. The reason Palmer was in this position because Enzo got dropped and someone had to be in the left-hand side, which was Palmer when Enzo came back. Palmer's wrong. Yeah, I think originally Palmer ended up occupying that space against Newcastle because we were having sort of conversations, weren't we, about Gusto and Reece were playing together, and then we had, I'm just trying to think, we ended up playing the double pivot, which then meant Cucurella wasn't inverting, and it meant that someone needed to cover the spot that Cucurella's been inverting to. So they decided it was Cole Palmer, and Cole Palmer ultimately scored against Newcastle. And then I think Maresca felt like he'd go forwards with that, and it just stopped working. Yeah, Matt, it was that, right? But I've been crying out for that. And I haven't been saying João Felix, by the way. I've been saying Nkunku. But I still think that is Chelsea's best chance against some teams that are worse. I've said that from the beginning of the season. I think there's potential to play that formation in a number of games, because I think ultimately what that formation allows us to do is just outscore teams. I think we will have so much going forwards that the worst teams in the league won't be able to handle it. With a formation like that, why can't you have like the Neto, Palmer, Nkunku, Jackson, and throw in an Enzo Fernandez or a João Felix? You could probably Madueke, if you want, play Palmer on the right side of it in terms of the three midfielders. I think you could do that. And I think you have to pick and choose when you can do that, because if you do that against Liverpool, you don't win the game, right? Liverpool will have too much for you. But if you do that against a Leicester, and you do that against a Southampton, or you do that against teams that are more willing to sit back and counter-attack, I actually think you're right. Now, I don't know. Chelsea, what I've seen of him in a Chelsea shirt has been all right, to be honest with you. I'll be honest with you, right? I haven't seen much of him for Southampton. I really didn't watch much of Southampton that season. They got relegated. I thought they were atrocious. So I really didn't watch him. Whoa. Mate, you're getting banned because I actually haven't shushed you. You won't be back in another chat. Dan would happily sell Nkunku. I think I would still like to bring in a striker, even if Nkunku didn't go. Jardel Davies, left wing, is the most open spot available after right back. If George can't get at least back up for centre and left wing, don't see. Yeah, we've got a lot of wingers right now. We do have a lot of wingers. And to be honest with you, I just feel like that makes it incredibly difficult for young players. And that's why you have to give credit to someone like Tyreek George, because ultimately he's actually going about it in the right way. And he's just fighting, and he's playing at a good enough level to ask questions. And that's all you can do as an academy player is go, would we be better off playing George than we would be playing Sancho, Mudryk? And I think George is putting himself in a conversation for Conference League football. Who else have we? I'm just having a look. What have you guys been saying? I mean, you're really not having Lavia, are you? To be honest, I think George was really good against Noah. I think George had a really, really good game. I think Nkunku will probably score. Yeah, of course he probably will. I think Nkunku is, like we've said already, Nkunku is the type of player that isn't playing in his best position, isn't playing where he should be, in my opinion. And I think that's hindering him. And I think he hasn't had enough starts for Chelsea. And it's a shame. But ultimately, I think going forwards, we will see more from Nkunku in his career. I just don't think it's going to be at Chelsea. I really don't, which is such a shame. Yeah, maybe. Do you know what? Maybe an outstanding Nkunku performance would be enough for him to actually get back into Maresca's thoughts. Maybe, because Matt said it a little bit earlier on, is that Nkunku's work rate, and it looks like sometimes his head is dropping. And ultimately, I think it would be nice to just see a little bit more from Nkunku, showing that he wants to play for this team. But Felix, you know what it is? João Felix looks so good. And if Felix could have better output, I don't think this would even be a question, because I think you'd be like, what is the point? João Felix is just as good. But I think João Felix aesthetically looks unreal, but his output is just not ever going to be good enough unless something drastically improves. I just don't see it. But Chelsea are blessed with players in that position, and ultimately it's just going to come down to whoever the manager prefers. But this is so true. João Felix's shooting is not good enough, whereas Nkunku is clinical when he gets his opportunities. We've seen that. Guys, look, I don't want to ask for it too much. I know I've been doing it a lot recently, but there's 30 of you in here. Can we all smash the like? We're trying to get 30 likes every single stream we do. So that would be unbelievable if we could do it. We are now as well 2 subscribers away from 3,000. If we could do it today, that would be unbelievable. 3,000 on this channel is just nuts. It blows my mind. That is a small football stadium. I've literally got attendances in my book where I write down every game of football I've ever been to, smaller than the amount of subscribers we've managed to get on this channel. Yeah. So I have to say thank you to every single one of you that allows me to turn on this camera and just have a chat with you and put your thoughts in the comments and battle ideas off each other and build this community. I love doing it. And honestly, this Chelsea show that I've got going on here right now is fantastic. So thank you to every single one of you. 3K. I think we probably will do that today. And that is just a nuts number, honestly, every time I see that. I remember we've done it. We're on 3,002. I remember doing a show right when I started. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, if I get 100 subs, I'll be over the moon. The fact that we've got to 3K now is unreal. And some of you are here every single time. So big up to all of you as well. And at the end of the day, we all want Chelsea to win as well. So, yeah, look, I'm over the moon with that, guys. You've absolutely smashed it. But, yeah, no, that's cool. 3K is brilliant. Like, thank you. I'm buzzing. You can probably tell I'm buzzing. So on to the next one. What should we set the next target at? 5? No, one day. But look, I think going forwards, Chelsea have absolutely got a serious chance of winning this competition. You know, at the beginning of the season, I know a lot of you were like, come on, Dan, how can you say semi-final? How can you say semi-finals? You know what? The more I watch this competition, the more I am well aware that Chelsea have to win this Conference League. I think if we don't, I hate to put pressure on it, but I think it's a failure on Maresca. I think it's a failure on the club. And I think it'll be a failure on the players if we don't win this competition. I'll be honest with you guys. I know I was a little bit shy about saying we should go and win it. But honestly, right, I genuinely think, Arn, big up, my man. Thank you. Right on time. Dan Knight, mate, you're here all the time as well, guys. Thank you so much. On the road to 4K, on the road to 5K, however we see it. But yeah, guys, keep smashing it. Honestly, guys, keep challenging me with your opinions and keep saying to me different views you've got, because that's what gives us the best competition, the best conversation. When you guys come in and you say, "Nah, actually, I think it looked a bit more like this," or "I think this guy should play," or "I think this guy should," as long as we're doing it reasonably and we're not doing it in a way that's offensive to the players or, to who we're talking about or how we're talking to each other, it's actually fine. I don't mind it. I don't mind if someone can come in and prove me wrong or prove someone else wrong or raise a really good point. We go, "Oh yeah, we didn't think of that." That's what football conversation is about. It's about different opinions, different conversations, making us all smarter and understanding, and actually just coming together as a community and being like, "Come on, all we really want is Chelsea to be winning again." That's all we really want. Maresca said, "If we reach," this is what I'm saying, right? If Chelsea reach the final, and we don't win it, it's a failure, because Chelsea should be winning any final they're in. But what if Chelsea don't reach the final? Is Maresca going to say it's a disgrace? Because that's where I'm a little bit confused. But I'll be honest, don't forget the Servette game. Don't forget the Newcastle Carabao Cup game. This Chelsea team can slip up. And I've said that from the beginning. I hope they've learned from it. Liverpool in the Carabao Cup final, we should have won. We were against some of their kids. Learn from it. Turn this team into winners. I said that last season. Go and get Conference League football. Go and get Europa League football and allow this team to turn into winners. And that's what we've got to do with this competition. I think we will do it. So, yeah, look, absolutely. Guys, I'm just looking through now, actually. I'll just throw these up as well. Let's see what some of you guys have got to say. I think we'll just throw it open. If you guys have got any questions, got any points you want to make going into this game, going into the Villa game at the weekend. By the way, that Villa game is massive. That Villa game, we win that, massive statement. Honestly, that'll be huge. Man United being in the Europa League is criminal. I hate every time. Do you know what? With Amorim, I'll be honest, I actually think fair enough. They got a good manager there. It makes a bit of sense. Under Ten Hag, I looked at it every time and thought, that should have been Chelsea. You did not deserve to be in that competition. Maresca, yeah, right. Let's see. If we win the Conference League, we would have won. Yeah, look, that would be brilliant. We all know how great it is. We've been able to do it for years until the Conference League started, saying we've won everything. We'll do it again. I'm sure we will. Aka says, big up down the chat. You think the only reason Nkunku has not seen the pitch for longer is because of his defensive? Yes and no. I think there's a couple of reasons why Nkunku probably isn't seeing the starting 11 in the Prem. I think Matt really did sum it up. His work rate in that hasn't been fantastic. His head drops a little bit, probably because he isn't starting. I also think Nkunku's wage structure is a bit of an issue right now. And I think potentially the board would rather move him on than keep him around, because people are aware of what money he's on. And it's not that, like, he probably earns more money than Cole Palmer because of how we bought him and we bought him in for. I just don't think it's going to sit well with the wage structure, and I think they'd rather move him on. Rich moneymakers, according to my trusted sources, our coach is doing extra homework on Phoenix, Mudryk, Jackson, Noni, Fofana. Bro, thank you. I don't know where you get that insight from, but hopefully that is true. Lavia, Casado, Anana, Tielemans is needed. Yeah, I don't know if Tielemans is fit, actually. I don't know if Lavia is going to be fit for that. Do you know what? Against Villa, hear me out on this. I don't even mind if Enzo plays, because Enzo Fernandez has proven he can perform against Villa. He did it in the FA Cup away from home. He was fantastic that night. I don't fear Villa at the weekend. I don't fear them. I think we're good enough. Villa have lost and drawn to worse teams than us. And Villa, off the back of their European nights, haven't been fantastic. Like, they really haven't. Palou says, if we're really serious, we only drop points one game before City, either Spurs or Villa. I mean, it's a shame we can't play City right now, because we might have a chance. I would say that Spurs game, I think that's going to be really tough. That's Spurs look. I hate to say this, but in some games they look fantastic, and the fact that they had two of their best defenders missing, and then they kept a clean sheet against City. they're gonna be a big test for us. Like they are. I know it's Tottenham. I know Chelsea beat Tottenham, and we should. But believe me, that's going to be a tough game for Chelsea to navigate that, I think. But I still believe we'll be all right because Chelsea, Tottenham, there's something mentally with Spurs that fixture is incredibly difficult. Would you rather win FA Cup or I think that's going to throw up a bit of a debate because for me, I'll be honest, I'd rather win the FA Cup, but I think a lot of you might say Conference League. But I would say FA Cup because I want a domestic trophy. I really want a domestic trophy. I feel like Chelsea haven't won one in a while. And you know what? If we win an FA Cup, we win it at Wembley. And Wembley's been a tough place for us to go. And in recent years, the team that you play in the FA Cup final is normally a good side. Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. If we are beating one of those teams, that's a good result. And I would say the FA Cup. But do not get me wrong, like completing the set, like who just said that? Someone said that actually. I just see it. Matt says complete the set. That sounds good, right? But I think the FA Cup holds more weight than the Conference League. But I think Chelsea, I'll be honest, I said this before the season. I said a domestic trophy is absolutely needed this season. I think it was. And I believe that would be the League Cup. I actually probably didn't believe it would be the FA Cup. But now, because of how easy the Conference League is appearing to be for this Chelsea B team, I think actually we have to win the Conference League and we have to go and fight for a domestic trophy. And I think we actually probably have to do both. I really do. I think Chelsea have to do both. I think Chelsea have to win the Conference League now. I think we're in it, and these teams are way below our level. And I'm sure we'll add players to this squad. We will either sign players in January or add in the likes of Cole Palmer and other players that are in the team. And we'll give a really good challenge to this Conference League. And I think we'll win it, and we should win it. But also, I didn't predict that to be that easy. The FA Cup is the challenge. The FA Cup is a difficult competition to go and win. We're not going to win the league, but there's a potential finish on the cards here that Chelsea finish in the top 4, win a Conference League, and go and try and win the FA Cup. That would be a great season. That would be off the back of the last 2. That would be phenomenal. So yeah, look, let me see what you guys are saying about that because Dance's Conference League. Yeah, a lot of you want to like tick off all and say we've won it all. Don't get me wrong. I would I'd love that. Bring me the Spurs high line. You know how good Chelsea are against the high line. The only thing I'll say is, and I'd love to know what you guys think. Do you think Maresca will will he take advantage of the high line like we did against Brighton? I feel like we haven't seen that a lot. Do you know what I was thinking about this earlier because I was in a conversation on Never a Foul. What is Chelsea's best performance of this season? Because I think this splits opinion as well. Let me know what game you think is Chelsea's best performance. I want to see what people say in the chat. I was looking, is it Brighton? Is it West Ham? Is it a draw that we maybe got against the likes of Arsenal? Where have Chelsea been at their best this season? Was it Wolves all the way back at the start of the season? That's what I want to know. What do you think is Chelsea's best game? You're flying in with the comments, guys. I'm trying to keep up, by the way. I still don't think we're due a drop-off. I think Chelsea have had a bit of a drop. We've only won 2 in the last 6. I'm not saying it's a drop-off in terms of form because we've actually been all right against some really tough teams. But I'm not sure. I don't know. If we drop off, I'll be really disappointed. I think Chelsea have the potential to be really worrying for a lot of other teams in and around this race for Europe. I'll be gutted if we drop off because Chelsea shouldn't be dropping off. We should be going in the right direction. That is absolutely for sure. Solomon, appreciate that, my man. Thank you for joining the community. What a legend. Solomon just becoming a member of the channel as well. Unbelievable. Love the support from Solomon there. I really, really, really appreciate that, Solomon. You are a top guy, mate. Honestly, quality stuff. Like, let's see what you guys are saying about competition and who who is more than likely going to be our best game of the season? Because I'm going to say, I think it's West Ham. I think it's West Ham. And a lot of you are going to say, I think Brighton, and I think some of you say Wolves. So let's see. I saw this, by the way. I saw this. That is outrageous. He's out for a long time. And Fraser Forster is woeful. Woeful. That could be an issue for them. Okay, let me see. Robert says Conference League, by the way, there's more pressure to win it. European trophy's a European trophy at the end of the day. I do agree with that. Brighton says Palu. Kaleo says West Ham was our best. Matt says West Ham. Rich Moneymaker says West Ham. Leicester, you think the game just gone as well? Maybe. Guys, smash the like, by the way, if you haven't already. There's loads of us in here today. Answers depends on how the other team sets up. I agree on. I think some of our games have been really good against teams. We were good against probably like trying to think. We were good against Liverpool. We didn't get a result there, but we actually played really well. We were unlucky in that one. Could be Leicester away. Scoreline was flattering. Last game or Wolves second half was phenomenal, to be fair. I feel like, you know what it was with Brighton? Brighton was Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer was fantastic in that game. I don't think, whereas West Ham, I felt like we were all very good. Do you know what? I was looking back for some reason. Whoa, Solomon. 10 memberships, mate. Unbelievable. Solomon, guys, if you've just got a membership off Solomon, make sure to say thank you to him right now. If you suddenly turn into a member of this, make sure to say thank you to him right now. You are a legend. Big up, Solomon, man. You are a legend, bro. Thank you. Appreciate that, bro. What? Guys, we hit 3K today. There's 50 of us in here right now. Like, this is unreal. Like, thank you so much, guys. I'm buzzing, man. Big up, Solomon. Big up to all of you in here. Thank you so much for tuning in. 11 new members today on behalf of Solomon. What a guy. What a guy. Big up yourself, mate. Honestly, you have a good day. You're right, mate. Solomon, keep the blue flag flying high. And if you're ever at the bridge, come and say hello, mate, because I would love to say hello and thank you for that in person, honestly. But yeah, look, a lot of you are saying West Ham. I think West Ham is probably Liverpool, says Dan. I think Liverpool was a great performance. I think, we were all a bit mixed, but I think that West Ham game was really good, really good. Boys, honestly, like I said 3K before Christmas. We've done it a month before. Anything above that is an absolute bonus. But look, if we start the road to 5K before the end of the year, that would be unbelievable. I'm going to try my best to just keep the lives coming like this on as close to a daily basis as possible, because as much as I like doing like a video and uploading it, actually chatting with you guys in the comments is so good. I love being able to get an instant conversation with you off the bat now in the lives. I think it's great. And don't get me wrong, I've got guys that love tuning into the videos and they watch it when they can and they always leave a message. And I always get back to the comments. But doing this right now is great as well, honestly. Keep it up. Top quality stuff, guys, from all of you. Yeah, this is what happened. Solomon happened. Thank you, Solomon. I hope you have a very, very good day, my man. Praying Sanchez. Guys, do we need to talk about Sanchez? I think we all know. Like, Sanchez is just... Guys, I said this about Heidenheim. I actually think Heidenheim are a decent side. I think they're going to be our biggest test, but I still think we beat them. But I do think they are a bigger test than what we've had already. I really do. You look at some of the biggest teams in this competition, and they're actually way below it. If you have a look, they are miles below it, to be fair. To be fair, right? No, Matt, we're not doing this. Sanchez is better than Fraser Forster. Fraser Forster is diabolical. I watched him for Spurs against Galatasaray. Nah, he's not good. No way. Do you know what? The last game, I don't know what anyone thought of this, right? But the last game against Noah, I thought Jorgensen, I know Noah weren't great. I know they weren't, but I thought Jorgensen probably had his best game for Chelsea because he was just very calm, no mistakes. I thought he was great. I really, really think he had a good game. I really do. I think maybe he starts to just get a little bit more comfortable and eventually that position becomes his own. If not, I actually think someone like, although I've not seen him play, Penders is definitely in the mind of a number of people in the backroom staff for Chelsea because I don't believe we sign a goalkeeper in Jan. I just don't think we do. I know that sounds mad, but the summer just gone. What is that? The summer just gone. We signed 2 goalkeepers for over 60 million. So I just don't think we sign a goalkeeper in Jan. But Sanchez won't play. He's going to play against Villa, isn't he? I hope he doesn't get sent off because the worst thing is if Sanchez gets sent off, it's another mistake that he's made. We'd all love to get behind Sanchez. We all want Sanchez to do well. I sat there, boys. I sat there, and ladies, if there's any in the chat, but I sat there against Leicester. Sanchez was here, like there. I was second row, and I could basically see what he could see because the pitch is raised and we're kind of level. He played a pass into Casado on the edge of the box, and he immediately put Casado under so much pressure. And I thought, what did you see to think that was ever the right pass? Because there was a player out to the left, there was someone long, and there's a player just over the top, like a little dink. And he played Casado on the edge of the box, and Casado was under pressure straight away. And I was like, not good. Like, I don't know what you've seen to do that at all. And that's where I think his biggest problem is his decision making. It's just fills no one with confidence. It makes it harder for the defense. It makes it harder for everyone around him. And I don't know. I just struggle to see what Sanchez sees sometimes when he's choosing his passes. And sometimes with some of the decisions, he flaps at crosses instead of catching them. It just doesn't fill me with confidence. Look, I know people are talking about Petrovic topping the passing stats out in Ligue 1. Petrovic needs to do that for the rest of the season. Do that for the rest of the season, and then conversations could be had. Because I don't know if anyone remembers it, right? But Petr Cech did a bit of analysis on Petrovic. And if you haven't seen it, it might be on YouTube, something like that. He kind of showed everything Petrovic wasn't doing well. And it was like, Petr Cech, do you want to come back and like coach him and tell him what he can do? Because Petrovic showed a lot of good basics, but then some things he just wasn't doing well enough. And I think they've sent him out on loan, rightly so, let him develop. But seriously, if we're talking about anyone coming back from Strasbourg, walking into this Chelsea team, I think it's Santos. I know we're talking about GKs at the moment, but Santos, that kid, we might hit the jackpot with him. Do you know what? I would bring him back. I would even ask if we could bring him back in January. If not, you bring him end of the season, put him straight in. This kid's 20 years old. Bring him back for the Club World Cup. He's wearing the armband of Strasbourg. He looks unbelievable. He's literally leading some of the stats for midfielders right up in like the top 5 in world football, in European football. He is so far up on the list at 20 years old. This is one of the hottest prospects in world football is Andre Santos. He is a serious player. Really, really good player. Sanchez is, how does a goalkeeper get that? Oh, mate, come on now. To be fair, that just shows, because they're not for dissent. 90% of those cards are probably, well, I say he's had 3, so it's 66% of those cards, if not all 100%, are probably going to be for those stupid rush tackles that he's made, and he's given away a number of pens. That's probably what it is. He does. He unsettles the team. He unsettles the defense. I agree. I completely agree. Let's see what you guys are saying. We beat Genk 4-2. They were 4 favourites. The Greek team was 7 favourites. Everyone hit the like and subscribe. Big up. No, I agree. Guys, there was loads of us in here and we haven't even hit 30 likes. Come on, smash the likes. We try and get 30 on every live that we do, every show that we do. 30 is the number we try and aim for. And we are 2 off. So all it takes is 2 of you just to smash that. Yeah, guys, I don't know if you get it everywhere, but in England, I have it actually. I'm not going to lie. There's a League Un Pass, and you can get the highlights for free, to be fair, on their website, on their app. But I have the League Un Pass, and I actually watch French football. I actually quite enjoy it, and I actually look out for Strasbourg and a couple of other players. And he looks so good. He looks so good. I spoke to Don quite a bit, and Don was like, he's really, really good. And we obviously saw what he did before we signed him in that young competition. He scored so many goals, he was top scorer. Don was like, he's good enough. Maybe this season. He ended up going back out on loan. He's absolutely stepped up this season compared to last as well. Looking really good. I actually think Santos is probably having a better season right now than Lavia. He's playing really, really well. And he's getting a lot of respect from all around Europe. He really is. If Netu, right? Tell me, Netifu, right? Tell me what you don't like about these players. Because I understand some people go, nah, this player's not great. This player doesn't do this, blah, 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 blah. Tell me what you see in this player to not be good, or what don't you like? And then we can actually get on the same page as each other. Right? Don't say he's not as good as him. He's not as... What don't they do well? What tells you they're bad? 2 off for time wasted. 1 was a penalty. Right, there you go. God, mate, come on now. Santos is a bad boy baller. I have to agree. I think he looks really good. People that rate Santos Lavia don't have Chelsea interest at heart. We need... When am I... Netafu? I've not said that. Chelsea need world-class players. Do not get me wrong. I think Santos... Lavia, they've got potential to maybe be there one day. Yes, Chelsea should have world-class players in their team as well. Don't you remember, though? We used to have Frank Lampard in the same team with Drogba, with Etus, players like that, world-class players, Ballax, and then you'd have youngsters coming through at the same time. Remember when we had Hazard, Oscar, Mata? Like, we had a good blend. We had Kevin De Bruyne, Salah, youngsters that were going to be world-class in the same squad. We've done it before. You need a mix. Every single Chelsea fan, the majority of us all believe Chelsea need more world-class players in their starting 11. Unfortunately, I don't think the board is going to go in that direction. I just don't think they are. The way the wage structure is, I just don't think it's going to happen. The only way you get world-class players into this current Chelsea team is they either single out a huge amount of money for a world-class player, like an Osimhen, like they tried to do in the summer, right? Like they've done before with a Caicedo. They knew Caicedo was quality. They put a huge amount of money down. They're paying him big wages, but the player's still coming from a club that realistically isn't paying the type of wages that the squad or the club are happy with paying. If we go and buy a player from a Bayern Munich, a Real Madrid, the wages are so high, it's not going to happen. If we go after, example, Gyökeres or Osimhen, the wages are going to be high, but they're not going to be 350 grand a week high. They're just not. How much is Gyökeres going to be on at Sporting? I don't know the exact figures, but if we go after him in Jan and loan him back, because I saw that today, we can talk about that if you want. I genuinely think that's the type of world-class player we might be able to get our hands on. And is Gyökeres world-class? I mean, probably with the amount of goals that he's scoring. Guys, sorry if I'm missing your chats. You're throwing them in at a huge rate, which is unreal. Santos Caicedo, I think Chelsea, but I think that would be unreal. Santos is not better than Thuram. Thuram's playing for Juventus, though. Like, isn't Thuram playing for Juventus? Is that him? I'm sure it is. Like, Juventus isn't comparable to Strasbourg. What are the age differences there as well? Tell me why you think he's not good, because you haven't done that yet. Let's see what you guys are saying. Solomon, big up again, Solomon. Stephen, good to have you in here, my man. Stephen, you've shown, I just want to say thanks, because you've shown massive support over the seasons gone by, and we managed to hit 3K today, and you're one of them. You're here all the time, so thank you so much for being one of those guys. Ben Roberts brought in Sanchez. I hear mate, Denmark goalie, is that Jorgensen? Jorgensen looked really good, man. Jorgensen had a good game. I felt calm. I felt calm with Jorgensen in goal. I didn't feel that once with Sanchez. I've got to be honest. So let's hope Jorgensen has another good game tomorrow. Most people, the stats of his goals are mostly tap-ins, but I don't think he's that good on the ball. Who's that, by the way? Potential, yeah, right. I heard that somewhere. Bro, Santos and Lavia are not good in midfield. Watch the games they don't do well in midfield. God, I think we're watching different games, man. Like, Lavia's had some really good performances for Chelsea. Wages, Dan, I think wages go up. I think because we're out of the Champions League, I actually think wages are a bit lower. I think if Chelsea get back into the Champions League, potentially they do. By the way, we can talk about Gyökeres because I think anything under 80 million, I would be up for that deal happening. I said the same with Osimhen. I don't think this is a £100 million striker. I just don't think he is. I like him though. I think this is a good player. And you know what it is? He doesn't go to AFCON mid-season, where, like Osimhen mid-season would also leave at the same time as Jackson. Not a good idea. Gyökeres, at least he is available when Jackson goes. Because I actually think Jackson is really improving, guys. I don't know if we should be writing Jackson off. And this is where I had a conversation the other day. I actually think I was saying to Dan Potts, Chelsea maybe would, and the way their board is right now, and the way how they act when they want to sign someone from Manchester City. I mean, Joe Shields would probably go for Delap, and Stephen's saying it there as well. I think Delap is a potential wild card for Chelsea this January. I really do, as a backup. I think he would be a backup for Jackson, whereas Gyökeres provides instant competition. So it depends how you throw it up. But if Delap ends up at Chelsea, I would not be shocked. Let's see what you guys are saying. Gyökeres is not the same level as Osimhen. Really? I don't know. I think they're probably comparable. I don't know what loan spots are available. We'll probably try and move players on to make sure they are. Gyökeres is 30k. Mate, it's what I'm saying. Guys, this is the exact thing I'm saying. If he really is on 30k a week, Chelsea could pay him the same amount of money as like what our top earners are on. Enzo, Cole Palmer, Reece. Those type of players, right? In the new wage structure, Gyökeres would take a really competitive wage home and have good bonuses. That's how you get world-class players in. Both for 26. Look, that's a good age to be signing a player as well. I think we signed Torres at a very similar age. Unfortunately, it just didn't go very well. But that was like the perfect age to be signing a player at. Rivals, Labour, us, Palmer FC. Now, honestly, Casado, yeah, that guy... he's good enough to play in that single DM role on his own against teams. That he really is. We just have to play in the right way. Poch tried it last season, but we didn't play football in the right way. If you actually play through Casado and not around him like Poch tried, you will thrive off of him. He's so good. So good. Santos gives me baby S. I hear that a little bit. I do hear that. Definitely has the ability to do a lot, right? He could easily play like a Fernandinho role and sit there and break up play, but he also has the ability to be a box crasher and get there on the edge of the box like a Lampard, like an Essien, and chip in with goals as well. Definitely hear that. Jorgensen was shaky versus Newcastle. Yeah, he was, but who was good in that game? Because I think no one turned up. And when a team is bad, like, it just doesn't help anyone. Mate, do you know what, right? Gyökeres is taller, but Osimhen in the box, his movement, I still back him, by the way. I think he's really... I'll take either. I'm being fussy here. I'll take either of those two. I think that Osimhen against Spurs had so many opportunities. So many. Out of nothing as well. Sometimes, like last night, Gyökeres, I was expecting there to be like I don't know how well he played, but I was expecting there to be like some massive talk about him. There was like after the City game. It's not really happened, so I don't know, but who knows? Let's see. Osimhen is a player I really like, though, and I really like Gyökeres from what I've seen. You can't moan if Chelsea go and sign either one of those, because they are arguably two of the most prolific strikers in world football at the moment, up there with the likes of Harry Kane, Lewandowski, even Retegui at Atalanta. If you don't know about him, he is on fire this season. Another player for Atalanta, by the way, who is on fire at the moment this season, De Ketelaere, or however you say his name, Charlie boy over there, is banging in goals and assists for fun. He didn't really do it at AC Milan, but Atalanta, he is putting up numbers. Got some really exciting players in that team. Obviously, Ademola Lookman is over there as well. Jorgensen isn't all that. No. A goalkeeper is such a weird one. We've spent so much money already. How can we go and spend more money? We've got other positions in. Don't get me wrong. Goalkeeper's a massive issue, but how can we spend more money when we've already spent 60 million last summer? Our recruitment, in terms of instant impact, our recruitment's not been unreal. We all know that. In terms of like 3 to 5 years' time, it might be really good. Could we have spent? Hear me out on this. I'd have spent 30 million on that Mamadashvili. I think he looked really good at the Euros. Liverpool have got him now. I would have gone in for him. Do Chelsea need a stopgap until Jorgensen or Penders are good enough? Maybe, because Sanchez just isn't it. I don't know. Can we spend another? Is there a goalkeeper on a free transfer? You know what's crazy, and you know what's actually dumb is like Wojciech Szczesny went Barca, and De Gea's playing unreal at Fiorentina. Why didn't we just go and get one of these guys? We should have done that. Fiorentina are not paying David De Gea more money than what Chelsea could afford to pay him. No way. Chelsea can afford. It's 85. What, Matt? What is 85? By the way, 85 million is the price for Gyökeres, is it? And that's what you mean. Okay. And how much would Osimhen be? Palu says, bring me Delap. Delap is an interesting one. I would definitely hear Delap signing out. Gyökeres is not the same level as Hosselu? Hosselu? Come on. Oi, Netafu, right? You're here just to wind us up. Hosselu. Gyökeres has scored 50 goals, son. Hosselu. Come on, mate. You put Gyökeres in a Real Madrid side. You're telling me he ain't scoring more goals than Hosselu. Vlahovic seems like a good player, to be fair. I wonder if you're a Juventus fan. You chucked a few Juventus players out today. There is a clause on our players' contract. Yeah, there is. There is that. Definitely is. Don't get me wrong. I actually think that's a good thing. I think there should be a clause. If you're not performing well enough, you shouldn't. Like Man United, right? They're doing awful. Those players are still taking home a bag, whether they're in the Champions League or they're not. Chelsea having that in is a really good idea. And I can get behind that with the new wage structure. I really can. I hear the Delap thing. Only Jackson replacement is also... No, we don't need to replace Jackson. This is what I'm saying. Don't replace Jackson. He's playing too well. Build with Jackson. Not having Madueke, no, Gugu. I wouldn't be surprised if Madueke left before or before the start of next season. I wouldn't be shocked, especially with Esteval arriving. I wouldn't be surprised. Although I think Maresca likes him. Delap was very good. He was good. Ipswich have another youngster. He's called Bro. Look, we got good money for Amari. Look, man. Phil, look, I actually coached Amari when he was very young. He probably wouldn't remember, but big up, mate. Honestly, what a career he's going to go and have. I'll tell you that much. And we got good money for him. We can't moan. We got him on the cheap from Arsenal. We turned him around like that for great profit. And he feels like he can play at Ipswich. So let him crack on. Because Vega... Come on, Dan, who is your preferred striker option to bring in? I'm going to say Delap, actually. I'm gonna go out there with Delap, actually, because I listened to Nicholas Jackson after that game, and I was like, you've matured so much. I actually have to say, like, I'm willing to back you, Nico. I genuinely think this guy is good enough to get 20 goals a season. I really do. I just think we need to get 20 goals a season from other players as well to stand a good chance of fighting for titles. But, guys, there's so many comments coming in. You guys are absolutely smashing it today. I hear that a bit, Steve. I think you need a good blend. I think you need to sign some players on data management, but at the same time, or data recruitment strategy, whatever you call it, but at the same time, just do the test and look at a player and think he's good. We are being linked with Gehi. We are. No, mate. No, I don't know. Mark Gee's so young and was so cheap that I think they see it as an opportunity. Dewsbury-Hall, we spoke about earlier. Like, I haven't got a clue. Neither do the 90% of us in here. Guys, I'm going to wrap it. We've been absolutely unbelievable today. I've got to say, like, your support's been absolutely fantastic. What a stream. What a show. We managed to hit 3K. We managed to, I mean, Solomon went crazy with the memberships as well today. So thank him if you got one as well, if you haven't already. Smash the like if you haven't already. An absolute great show. I'll be back. I'm on a couple of lives as well around today. I'm over on Charlie's channel. I'm on the terrace and stuff like that as well tomorrow. So Friday, I think. But yeah, tune in if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't already. We've hit 3K. We're on the road to 4 or 5. I haven't decided yet. But big love to every single one of you. I will see you all soon. Keep the blue flag flying high. I really appreciate all of you. Thanks so much.